So Carson Price from the historic Wall Center as we welcome in columnist for the province and Postmedia, Patrick Johnston, who joins us from Rogers Arena in advance of Canucks Capitals tonight. Get excited.
Get excited, indeed. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Last visit for that guy.
It could be the last visit for, Putin's chief sports propagandist, and that's a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is, and I'm gonna have. I mean, I'm aiming to speak with him about Sid the Kid because I'm working on a story for ahead of the Olympics. Otherwise,
I'm not sure he's going to be very happy to discuss Olympics these days, given who isn't participating.
But you know what? Don't attack other countries. And
it is a pretty simple bar. One that should be mentioned at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue here in the days to come. Attack other countries, you don't get to play in the sandbox with others.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, is he going to want to talk about his rival in the city where his rival scored the golden goal, the biggest international goal? Anyway, I'll let you to it. Let's get to Canucks business. Let's start with the news here. Teddy Blueger, he of 2 games this season, is back in the lineup for the Vancouver Canucks, averaging a half point per game.
Yeah. I mean, it's I suppose. Listen, I haven't updated the second line center, the generic second line center data, but as we know, this has been. I mean, it is a story that this team's work in the middle has been atrocious, and that is one of the reasons why this team has struggled as much as it has. There is absolutely no denying that. Now, does Philip Hedl, who's also skating there today but not playing tonight, have, did he truly have the magic elixir with him that had he not gotten hurt, had he been able to stay in the lineup, would this team still have Quinn Hughes on it? I really am skeptical. That said, I am someone who said they would make the playoffs, and that assumed that this guy would be able to survive. Teddy Blueger, on the other hand, I did not pencil in as being a guy that is super key to the situation. That said, when the team was lining up after he was hurt, after Hedl was hurt, Max Sasson was the second-line center, Ratu was the third-line center, and I believe it was Nils Oman was the fourth-line center. I mean, that was dire. That said, David Kampf, who I guess stays in the lineup,
well,
he's not been an upgrade.
He's scratching
anyway.
Yeah. And you're right. Like, when they point to Blueger's injury being part of what went this season go awry, I don't think they understand the indictment that is on their team building down the middle.
Yeah.
But, and look, Ratu has not been good of late.
No.
So I can understand. But, Ratu over Kampf, I mean, I guess you can just say Kampf, you're still trying to pedal him.
He eats minutes, too, that are just non-event minutes in both directions, and the coach loves that, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much. I think it is that simple. I mean, I know they have had, the coaching staff has had concerns about some of the stuff they have seen with Ratu on the ice defensively. I certainly know, going back to even last year, that was a concern of the player himself. Ratu is conscious of what he needs to do and do better to stick in the NHL, and certainly one of those things is put the puck in the net, which he also has not done enough. But I
think one begets the other, though, PJ. Telling him you got to be way more, that's completely neutered his offense.
Maybe, yeah. But listen, even when he's on offense, I love his sneaky wrist shot, but he hasn't put it in the net. Like in the end, the center ice position, I said, has been a huge problem. But I would say the bigger problem beyond all that has been this crazy defensive reset that Adam Foote put them through. I think it was just a poor choice. The way they wanted to play just doesn't make any sense for the personnel they have. And certainly, I mean, I talked to Jim Rutherford about it last week. Once they brought in these younger defensemen, it's going to be a bit more testing of them and the system. I mean, he didn't say that, but that's my conclusion. And so the system is under stress because the guys you have available aren't ready for it. So it's been a bigger story than just the centers this year. But yeah, listen, Teddy Blueger comes in, he's a reliable guy, can show himself. He's got, a dozen games here before the deadline now. show he's healthy, plays well. He's going to the Olympics, so that's good. For him personally, it's a good story. He's back in the lineup.
You mentioned that about Foote and his defensive system. I saw a post from a fan this week that I tend to agree with. If they had just played park the bus hockey, trapped it up, which you would have expected a defensive defenseman who coached the defense the last few years when they were pretty darn good at preventing goals.
If they had played LA Kings hockey,
if they
win more games.
If they had played LA Kings hockey, they're probably 8, 10, 12 points better, and they're talking about how they're in a playoff race and we're not on rebuild road.
Well, I mean, they should be. They're not on rebuild road, which is where they should be, right? Like, realistically, this is where it's going to be. I think in the end, Foote showed, he's a rookie head coach. He showed he was naive, right? Like, he's like, well, I can make these guys work. And listen, yes, hard rock stay-at-home defenseman who played for a high-octane team in Colorado, right? You want to look at that team and say how that plays, and that's how I want hockey to be. And to his credit, that's an estimable desire, but you still have to have the horses. And obviously he had Quinn Hughes, and listen, Petey's been better, but it hasn't been amazing. And Philip Hedl can skate, and if he were healthy, certainly changes the dynamic of this roster. Again, I said I thought they'd be a playoff team. I also didn't think they'd be as bad defensively as they've been, because I didn't think the coach would choose the system.
Who did?
Willander
I thought that was something they could actually count on as bedrock.
Willander and Elias Pettersson have plateaued, certainly, if not worse. Zeev Buium has been more poor as a Canuck than he was as a Wild player.
Yeah.
Like, does Foote wear all that? Like, this has not gone according to plan for the development of these young defensemen under, again, a defenseman head coach.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Adam Foote is who he is, right? Like, he has 2.5 seasons before this as an NHL assistant coach, most of a season as a WHL head coach. He spent some time as a development coach. He learned. He spoke highly. When I talked to him when he first showed up, he spoke so highly of Andre Tourigny. He was obviously coaching in Utah, but he was heading up the development team in Colorado. Like, he's been around, but I don't think anyone would say this is a normal path to NHL head coach. So you do the best with what you have, and what he has is not a very deep bench of experience, and as we've discovered, not a very deep bench of talent. So it's a complicated one. I'm mostly willing to give him a pass, but then I think he struggled. The early question I had early in the year was that how would he adapt to what is happening in front of him? And he struggled. He struggled to adapt, especially once the injuries rolled in, and that in the end, among many reasons why this season went south, I would say is a very large one. Is that in the end he just wasn't up to the task. He wasn't ready for it, and he struggled to get the thing done.
To get a win, to break this streak, somebody's going to have to play a really poor game. Is that the MO? Because
those veterans, having been called out publicly, say, "I'll show you, coach."
It's been 2 months, though. I mean, that's just waiting on a miracle at this point, isn't it?
No, they're better players than what they've shown on any given night in the NHL. Rise up, best effort. We'll show you, coach. I think that's. I would hope that was part of the calculation for Foote.
Let's be clear. Like, as I said, lacking experience, but at the end of the day, it's also it's this in the same realm as the show me a good coach and I'll show you a great goalie mentality, right? It is as much about what your charges do as what you do. And especially in the last couple months, like, this team has improved. It has played better two-way hockey. And they have not gotten the goals, and they have not gotten the execution offensively. And then they've had some pretty serious gaffes. And that's what stood out to me in the beginning of this sort of what are the veterans doing dialogue. Because if you go back to Saturday night and you listen carefully to what Tyler Myers and Brock Besser were saying, was that they were expecting, I don't know if it was frustration, but they were saying, listen, it is hard as a young player to truly recognize that you got to listen, that the coaches do have ideas. And so whether there's a true disconnect or it's a communication issue or whatever, what have you, like, there has been struggles with getting it done on a player level. And, at the end of the day, and I don't think Adam Foote's the only person who sees this in this organization, that you need your veteran players. They do have good veterans here. Brock Besser, as he will fully admit, has been terrible, right? Tyler Myers has struggled a lot of the time. Marcus Pettersson has struggled a lot of the time. Philip Hronek has been great, right? Like, he's been one of the stories. Connor Garland, I certainly has had really good games, but also at the same time, you can see the strain wearing on him. I would say if you're looking for a veteran who's played well, it's Drew O'Connor, right? But Drew O'Connor on a good team is a third or fourth line winger, right? You need more from your top end guys. Petey and his line were atrocious against the Oilers on Saturday, and so to have games like that, it's not going to get it done, right? So you need those guys to sort it out. The win that is there, it will come, is going to come because they get a great game from a guy like Pettersson. They get a couple at this point, let's be fair, unexpected goals from Brock Besser. They get a goal from Hronek. They get a big night from Tyler Myers, right? This is where this team is at. It will happen. They will run into a team. I think, Blake, you're not wrong. They might run into a team that's a bit tired. You look, maybe obviously the Penguins have back-to-backs here, and then they're off 2 days once they get to Vancouver. But maybe the Penguins on Sunday, right? The Penguins are not a perfect team. They've obviously got bigger superstars with bigger pedigrees than the stars that remain here in Vancouver. But it's not impossible, right? It's not like they're playing a murderer's row of team. They're not playing the Oilers and the Avalanche every night. They need to find a way. And the other thing, it goes back to the thing I said off the top, right? They need some goaltending, right? Like Kevin Langton's been fine, but they need a big night from Kevin Langton, right? They need some big saves. They have not had a big save, honestly, since Thatcher Demko got hurt. They haven't had a big start from a goalie in weeks at this point, and that is a huge problem.
No games stolen, that's for sure. Explain the disconnect between all those veterans' performances and what we heard from Patrick Allvin, that some of these veterans need to stick around, through the lens of the Adam Foote comments. How does that disconnect happen where one's extolling the virtues of keeping the vets around and one's going, this
ain't it.
This is poison.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and to add to that, I asked Foote after the game on Saturday, I sort of said, listen, I get you guys are going to be overmatched some nights and that kind of thing, but are you seeing enough heart? Because I don't think anybody saw any heart in that second period on Saturday night. And then the next game, you hear Foote talking about getting angry about slamming doors and things like that. If the criticism that his own veterans aren't leading the way in the moment, okay, I get getting mad at them for feeling frustrated, and things going sideways and nothing quite working. Because, that game, they should have won that game, right? They should have beaten the Islanders. They were playing well enough to do it, and then they just stopped, and they let the other team take over, as we've seen so many nights. I think it comes back to just fundamentally, I don't know what they've been told to do isn't working. I do think that has been a struggle for the coaching staff to adapt to what they have. Listen, in the long run, do they want to play park the bus? Probably not. But if you're trying to get your players to execute something and there's a struggle for everyone to execute, you need to dial it back and keep it more simple and give them, as we like to say, achievable goals, right? And What are we trying to do tonight? What are we trying to limit? How do we limit? How do we create? How do we move the puck up the ice? Moving the puck up the ice has been a struggle all season, right? It's been a problem. And I think the disconnect comes from what is being seen and not being seen. And whether that's on the player or on the coaches, somebody's got to sit down and say, this isn't working. We need to try something else, because that's been a huge story here.
Who do you think he was talking about amongst the vets?
Well, I assume he's talking about 6. You'd think he's talking about 91, but given how much he's run Evander Kane out there, it's hard to say, right? Kane gets all these shots, but all the shots are nothing shots. So does he, I don't know. Is he talking about Garland? I don't know. Is he talking about 40? He's probably talking about 40, right? There's the list of veterans that you can single out who could make a difference is not that long anymore, right? That's the other thing.
Yep.
So it is some combination of those guys who have talents to put the puck in the net. I mean, I suppose you could include Niels Höglander, who, like, I think's played pretty well, but still, he's there to score, and he hasn't scored. Now, is that bad luck? Is that because he's not going to the right areas? I think he's going to the right areas, and certainly if you care about the numbers, Niels Höglander has the lowest Corsi against at 5-on-5 rate this season. Like, he has done a good job moving the puck up the ice, but he hasn't put the puck in the net. So, you know, like that's a story there. Like, there's all these weird little bumps in this lineup. Brock Besser can't move, right? Like, his skating, never the most beautiful skate in the world, but his skating has been atrocious, right? Like, the list goes on. Pedersen has had some big moments, but that game on Saturday was abysmal. So, yeah, I mean, every single one of these veteran players, I think, for one reason or another, you can single out as saying, you know, other than perhaps Ronick and I would say like Drew O'Connor, every single one of these guys has struggled. You can't say that Linus Karlsson hasn't skated his butt off, and Max Sasson hasn't skated his butt off, right? Like, there's some young players who really tried hard. The defensemen are trying their best. Those guys are all struggling. And, you know, to me, it's some combination of those forwards who aren't scoring. And then if you sit back and you look at the three veteran defensemen and the way they're supposed to be sort of leading things forward with those young defensemen, you know, are they doing the job? Is he singling? I don't know. I mean, it's some combination of those guys. And at the end of the day, you know, you don't want to win too much, but you still want to get some wins because you want to make sure that young players are learning habits and focused on trying hard every night.
Well, and you can't just make losing identity or losing culture or losing acceptable. And I think that's crept in.
And they are almost in the clear already. Like,
yeah, no, exactly. Like with every passing night in the NHL, for God's sakes, more and more distance. What do you know about Thatcher Demko's global search for medical
don't
advice
know
or fix?
That was so surprising to me. I mean, it was just sort of, you know, I mean, I wrote about it today as it's a par for the course with this organization, right? Like, pardon me, I'm just going to cough for a sec. It's par for the course with this organization that, you know, sort of that head scratching element with this goalie. And you look back now, that extension, I mean, we probably should have talked more about it at the time, but, you know, they're re-signing a guy that started the season on the injured list, right? Which we all remember, but he was injured 2 more times last season, right? And so extending him with sort of huge question marks about durability, it really looks foolish at this point. So the idea that they have to go elsewhere, you know, whether that's he doesn't believe in what he's hearing here, or there's something to sort of, well, yeah, Thatcher, go figure it out. Like, one way or another, you know, they've made a commitment to this goalie and they don't have him, right? Like, that's, again, another part of the story, right? Spending a bunch of money on goalies that aren't getting it done. So I don't know what he's looking for. We're just trying to find out. But here we are.
The good news is he almost doubles his salary next year. So,
yeah, we should all be so lucky, right?
$8.5 million over 3 years yet to be
amazing to think.
Yeah,
it's really amazing to think about.
Our first opportunity to talk to you about the Kiefer Sherwood trade.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think just about everyone's kind of said it. Like, you know, getting a first round would have been ideal, but 2 second-rounders, you know, they now have 4 picks in the first 50 picks of this draft. I think, I do think that they're still looking for more, right? They would like to get more high-end picks because at the end of the day, those are the guys that are going to drive the bus for your team, and they need to drive the bus for your team. You know, the side note is the reminder of how rarely they've picked in the second round, no matter who the management team has been. So that's good. Yeah, I mean, it was an inevitable thing. Sherwood was as he said, you know, thank the organization for finally getting it done because he and his wife need to get settled. It's too bad. Like, it really is too bad. A couple, you know, I again wrote about this today. Like, the symbolism of him leaving, this guy that was brought in to play in the playoffs, right, after having such an impressive playoffs against them in 2024, and then everything going completely south, is a remarkable thing, right? Like, it is amazing to think about how much that represents kind of everything that has gone wrong with this organization, and in many ways is fitting with the true history of this team, which is not the wonderful decade that ran from roughly 2001 to 2011, 2012, or the 5 years of the early 90s under Pat Quinn. That mostly this organization has been about ineptness, failure, sadness, mediocrity, and just completely unsatisfied dreams of ambition and playoffs and winning and having fun. Here was a very, very, very fun player, and in the end, it didn't work out, and he's now gone.
Well, on that upbeat note, we'll let you get a Kleenex and head to the room for because we know you have some interviews to conduct. But thank you for this, Mr. Johnston. And
I'll make a quick note before I go, Matt. The other thing I'm working on, I did go back and talk to a few key characters, the 98-99 season, because that team also had we all remember the Bure trade, right? Like the sort of turnabout, Berkey makes this move, turns the sort of fortune of the franchise. But people forget how bad the rest of that season was, right? Like even with Marcus Naslund and his 36 goals, that was an awful, awful year. And so I talked to Nazi, I talked to Jason Strudwick, I talked to Corey Hirsch, who all have three interesting different angles in that season. And Nazi, this is where he finds his way to true superstardom, or begins on that path. Jason Strudwick, obviously, as a depth guy trying to stay in the league, trying to win a spot on the team. And then Corey Hirsch, who saw Kevin Weeks come in, and basically that was the end of his time as an NHL regular. So, how it all plays together and what you need to be and who you need to be and how real all this can be on players. I think it's a very interesting story, and I think tells us a lot about what this organization and what this team certainly would like to be, and I would say also needs to be.
In the heart of trap hockey, a kid scores 36 goals. See,
isn't that nuts?
That would be a great storyline for this team right now.
Well,
keep on losing, but player X is going off, and that's a great sign for the future.
We should provide the context for younger audience members who don't understand. Like 36 goals then was like 50 50 now.
Yeah,
right.
That'd be like if he was a 50-goal scorer on a horrible team because of how little scoring there was in the league. That story and more coming to the province, the pages of the province and theprovince.com with our favorite columnist, Patrick Johnston. Thank you.
Take care, guys.